And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. It's your favorite time of the week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. For the last 4 years, everybody's been tuning in, clamoring, waiting until this time every week because it's another episode of the world famous Keepin It Rio, the number one rated podcast in the world in my own rankings. And I am stoked because today I did one of my little Facebook posts and I said, hey, who wants to come on and be a guest? And one of my good friends from the San Antonio roofing market, where I also reside, was quick to answer and say yes. And this has been a long time in the making. So without any hesitation whatsoever, I'd like to welcome my good friend, Zach, to the show. It says Zachary Stonehouse Roofers. I know his name's actually Zachary Jenkins, but this is the radio persona. It's Mr. Stonehouse Roofer in the house. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me this morning. Looking forward to shooting this podcast with you, just kind of shooting the shit and having a good time.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. We got some stuff to talk about because we're in the same market together. We're seeing the same stuff. We're dealing with the same adversity and having the same kind of wins, which is awesome. And I like to start every podcast off. Most of the time, I don't even know my guests, but this time I actually do. But some of the people that are watching in Uruguay or, Zambia right now, they may not be familiar with yourself or with Stonehouse. So give us a little intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we will just ride with it and see where we go.
All righty. I'm Zach Jenkins with Stonehouse Roofers. We pretty much do anything commercial, residential, any kind of roofing that you can think of. We also have a foundation site as well, Stonehouse Foundations. So we are cross-marketing both of those. Basically just getting in here. We are at a little bit of over a year and a half with the roofing side and growing daily. Really focusing on property management, things like that, customers that are coming back monthly, kind of trying to get a little bit away from the insurance side of things. We obviously will help people with insurance that we know, but as every roofer knows, insurance is just getting crazy now. Things like that is becoming a nightmare. And so just focusing on growing this the best we can. We're very family oriented. We're a smaller company. We're not trying to grow and be as big as everybody else, but that's kind of the gist of what we do. And that's our daily drive here.
I love it. And I think you and I have a lot in common from that very perspective. I'm the same way. I, at one point in my career, wanted to build a $50 million operation. And now it's like, you know what? I want to live peacefully. I want to have a good time. I want to help people, provide the absolute best service and the best quality that we can. And I agree with you about the insurance deal. We talked about it at lunch a couple weeks ago. It's just gotten so convoluted. I think we're going down a path that's going to be the path of success. And I look forward to sharing this road with you because you guys are awesome over there at Stonehouse. Let's talk a little bit about how Stonehouse Roofers came about. I've been here in San Antonio for 6.5 years now, which is crazy to think. And like you say, about a year and a half ago, my buddy Carl, who I've followed on social media for a while, had a great foundation company. I've actually referred people to him, and I've recognized the quality person he is, the character that he possesses, and just, overall good dude. And I noticed about a year and a half or so ago that there's a roofing division that comes about. And I've always wanted to learn a little bit about it because I think it's kind of cool to have a foundation and roofing. And when you're doing things at the highest quality with good ethics, there's plenty of room in this industry. So how did Stonehouse Roofers become a thing?
So I was previously with a couple of roofing companies. I've been doing this for some years now. Kind of just had a falling out with one of the owners and decided to do something on my own. I was talking with a couple people about starting a roofing company. Carl, we got together, sat down, had a lunch. It was supposed to be a brief lunch, but it turned into a 3-hour lunch. That was amazing. Shortly after that, I decided that, I saw his motto. I saw how he backed his word. His clients were always first, just things that you look for when you're trying to open a company or start a company. And that was my guy. I knew it right there at that lunch that everything that he told me was true. He wasn't trying to beat around the bush. He was very transparent. He also let me know, he didn't just only talk about the good. He let me know the problems that they had. And it's every business that you have, there's going to be problematic situations, and it's about how you handle that. And just backing his client 100%. That's basically what got me going with him. And shortly after that, we got together. About 2 weeks later, we had Stonehouse Roofers open. He had some knowledge in the roofing game. You know, people came to him with insurance claims that were already approved. He would go ahead and put the roof up. So he saw, you know, there was money to be made and there was another opportunity there. And when we sat down and had that conversation, I kind of answered all those questions for him. So that kind of, per se, kind of helped him decide on me as well. So just from that point on, we just started running and gunning. And we're thankfully growing very rapidly. We re-roof from Houston all the way to Rockport now. So, you know, we have a pretty big area that we cover. Other than that, man, that's pretty much how we started. Just a good old lunch and two good old boys just getting together and wanting to do something right for the community.
Yep. It doesn't get any better than that. And I know that feeling. I've had several of those lunches that are supposed to be like a half hour, and 3-4 hours later, you're solving the world's problems and coming up with ideas. And I think that's awesome because it is a perfect fit. You guys are great. Both very highly reputable guys that are going to do the right thing, never going to forsake the customers or quality. And I respect that. Like I always say, I don't consider any of us competition. I know that that's a mindset that some people do have. I think as long as we can continue to make this industry better, we can bring in quality people, build quality companies, it's only going to be best for all involved. We can filter out some of the crap together and work in the same place. And I always joke with people when they're like, you know, can't believe you're friends with your competition. But to be honest with you, I don't know that you and I have ever been on a bidding situation where we're going for the same job. I look outside and I see about 50 million houses, and it's like, well, if we become enemies over one, then that was pretty small-minded. And I get that our industry does have that, but I think it's awesome that we can work together and we can build a better reputation for what we do. So kudos to you guys for making that decision to get it going. Let's talk a little bit about those early days. You come in. I've done this myself a couple times. I bought Rio Blanco Roofing in 2019, and it was established, but it was out of business. And I'd never been to San Antonio before. I pulled up one day, and it was like, all right, here we go. We started building it, and the first thing I recognized is, you know, it's a new brand. It's been there, but it obviously wasn't good enough because it went out of business. And I have to kind of find a way to kind of get this thing rolling. The first few weeks is a little discouraging for me because I don't know anybody here, have no friends, family, contacts, nothing. I literally had never even been to San Antonio till the day we started it. And as I go along, we start learning lessons. We start getting a little bit of momentum. We start seeing some good things happening. But I always like to get that perspective from people who have been through the same thing. So you guys decide you're going to start a roofing company together. You just show up one day and it's like, all right, here we are. Stonehouse Roofers is in the house. You don't just start getting millions of phone calls. So what do the early days look like for you getting that thing built? Tell me a little bit about the stress that you had to deal with and some of the thoughts that go into that entire process.
Man, so it was, you know, it was tough at first. Thankfully, I grew up in the San Antonio area. I have a lot of family friends. I maintained good relationships over my other roofing company years. So coming on to this point, at the beginning, very stressful. You know, I couldn't step on other people's toes. Say I had clients from previous roofing companies. We weren't allowed to do that, so I had to start over, you know, beating the streets. Another big thing was, I think it was the April storm, because it was shortly after we started the company. April storm, I think it was actually April 20th. So
that's why you remember that date specifically, but you know, read into that what you will, folks.
High school was fun.
There you go.
But yeah, no, 100%. Just beating the streets, you know, getting out there, building the name, building the brand, making sure that people knew what I was talking about, but also knew that, hey, I am now, you know, when you're a sales guy, it's hard when it gets to problematic situations to help your client. You know, it's not ultimately up to you. So now coming in, I can say, hey, if you have a problem, which I don't think you will, I can handle that. Wow, that was cool. Fell right into my hand. I can handle that, and I can be there to help you with all of that. It's not something that I say, oh, it's not up to me. But beating the streets, that first hailstorm really helped us. I hit Pleasanton pretty hard. I spent about 3 weeks out there in total, just door knocking and getting everybody I can. And so that got us through our first I would say our first couple months. And then from there, it just took off. Word got out that we started this. Obviously, Carl had some connections through his foundation side where they, hey, free roof inspections. We'll come out. We'll give you this. I have a lot of realtor friends in property management that we were able to jump on with. And because of the quality of who I was before, they were comfortable with coming with us. Definitely stressful, 100%. That what if in the back of your mind, yes, there was a storm day, but like we said, insurance is tough to work. Really building the retail side of things, trying to get in some commercial properties, just getting the name out there. And, but I would say it was stressful, but I've been more stressed. Carl was very good about helping me with what I need or giving me the tools and the means, or I also have a bunch of people like yourself that I know very, very well, and they own roofing companies, so it was asking questions and getting the knowledge from the other people who aren't seeing themselves as competitors. They're willing to help me learn and help me kind of guide me through the process. Because, going from sales to running a company is scary, but, it's just had to do it, had to jump into it 100% and get it done.
I think that's the key. I think having that belief, and something that you hit on right there that I believe 100% is a difference maker, is you had someone that was backing you. You had someone that had established a business that came and said, look, dude, I understand it's going to be tough. I understand it's going to take time. And what happened with me was when we first bought this company in 2019, I had backing of a major organization. Everything was cool. We were given a little bit of time to kind of build it up, to get it going. Once it took off like wildfire. But then about 4.5 years later, we shut the company down again. And it was because of internal stuff that had been going on. It needed to kind of get straightened out. And then I came back and bought the business back in 2024 with another buddy who's got a supply company and multiple roofing businesses. But I always tell people, if it was just me going out there right now, starting Chuck's Roofing, no freaking way, my friend. I am not trying to do it. There's too much involved, too much cash flow issues going on right now. The way insurance is working has been just brutal. And I think having that person, having that company that believes in you and says, look, you're my guy. I know that you're not going to go out and sell $1 million the first year, the first week, the first month, whatever, and setting realistic expectations so that you can kind of step back and say, all right, I'm going to do it right. I don't have to take on every single job just to get revenue coming in, because it's not going to ultimately work out that way. So it's cool that you've got that backing. I understand that feeling 100%, but still, like you said, you get going, and until you start making things happen, there's got to be just a tiny slight hint of, did I do the right thing here? Am I crazy? Is this going to crash and burn? Am I going to look like a star? So for me, what happened was I got a random phone call from a guy, and I'll never forget this. I drive out to this dude's house, and I had my truck, which was wrapped with a different company name at the time, the company that was my parent company. I had got my truck wrapped, and it said serving Indianapolis, Indiana on it. I pull up to this dude's house, and it was over here in Live Oak, Texas. And the first thing this guy says to me is, if you're not doing the roof for free, don't waste your time. Well, guess what, bro? I'm not going to waste my time. I ended up, though, Zach, staying with this for a couple minutes, and I talked to the guy. Before it's all said and done, about 30 minutes later, I get the signed deal. He's paying his full deductible. He's paying an upgrade to a class 4, and he's getting his chimney repaired. So I get that first job, and I'm like, dude, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to be all right here. And I'm sure you've got a similar story. So tell me about that first one that you get with Stonehouse. You've been out in the industry. You've done your thing. Same as me. I was a multi-million-dollar producer for other companies. But when you get that one that's got your name on it, it's your brand, and you're the one in control of it, it's kind of a different feel. So tell me about that first one you nailed down, and how that made you feel and how it affected your confidence moving forward.
Man, so that first one that we nailed down, I was actually very blessed. Carl and them had just done the foundation. So, after the foundation settles, we go in. We got it done and knocked out pretty quickly. So the first one wasn't really like it felt good, but I didn't feel like it was the first one because I didn't earn it. It was kind of handed from the foundation. So when I beat the streets in Pleasanton and we were there, I got a good, I think it was about a 62 square house out there in a very nice neighborhood. And that gentleman, I was inspecting a house across the street and I got it covered by insurance. That gentleman was sitting in his front yard and I kept looking over there while I was on the roof. And, you could tell he wanted to talk to me. So when I got off this roof, I went over here and I spoke with him. And right then and there, right off the bat, signed it, got it signed retail. It was a good, I think it was $48K or something like that. And that just solidified, I guess you could say, like, Stonehouse is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to build this thing. This is my ultimate goal. That's when I just jumped in all the way. I knew this is where we're going to be. It was a great feeling. We saw that retail check come in. I saw some profit go to the company. Everything was paid. We got good numbers. And I'm like, this is doable. We can actually do this. But I knew in the back of my mind, I have to grind. The roofing industry is, like I said, we chase those storms in Kerrville. I think I told you at lunch, and there's roofing companies from Montana, so there's people all over the world coming to get what we want. And, you just got to grind. You have to show, I showed my worth. I showed the upgrades. I showed ventilation upgrades. He had, I think, 3 roofers out there since that storm had happened. Nobody got in his attic space to check his ventilation. Nobody gets in the attic space. Nobody looked at anything. This gentleman had leaks for days. He wasn't up to code. Their OSB was from when they built the house, way back when. It ended up being a really good job and really solidifying, this is what I'm doing for good. I'm not going elsewhere. This is what I'm committed to. So that first Pleasanton house was the one that really put the nail in it for me.
I love that. And I love the aspect of it being a retail deal. I've gone that route myself. I've basically said, okay, look, every opportunity I get, I want to sell retail roofs. We've started doing some custom homes. We've got a couple on the board. We've got a couple retail deals from previous clients that don't have damage. The majority of my stuff now is retail because of the way that it's been kind of changed. And what you said right there really separates us from the pack. And I'm the same way. It's like, let me get in your attic. Let me see if there's anything that we haven't been able to catch yet that you may not even know about. And there's no better way to find where a leak's coming in than to go look in the attic and find staining on the deck or, water dripping down, insulation that's messed up. And it's kind of a lost art that a lot of people don't really do at this point. And I think really it's a disservice to them and to their company. But I'm glad that they do it that way, because if you're the only person out of 4 that goes and does a specific thing and then you say, this is why, dude, you can basically, you can name your price at that point because you're the professional, you're the expert, and you disqualify those that are taking shortcuts. And I think right now, one of the sad things that's happening is a lot of people are getting into this industry based on maybe previous days gone by thought process of you knock on the door, you say, hey, we'll do it for whatever the insurance pays. We can't talk about policies with homeowners. So it's like, it's really taking a huge risk. And I've had several people here in San Antonio that got burned by companies doing that, and then they get ghosted. So it's like, well, there's definitely a market for people like us who can go and help people, walk them through the process, explain everything to them in a way that makes sense without crossing those lines. And the way that it's going now, I've been screaming this for probably the last 5 years. I was training my own sales reps. We've got to do retail. We've got to get retail minded. You've got to switch your mindset from knocking on the door and saying this to doing it this way. And it's really started to show over the last 1.5 to 2 years. So I think that having that retail-based mindset is huge. And I want to ask you a little bit about your process when you do this. And I'm happy to share mine too. This is going out to millions of people all over the world. Someone in Kazakhstan is going to watch this and be like, oh, I'm going to do it the way they do. But when you go to an appointment, do you have a set process that you go through, and kind of walk us through what an appointment would be like with you when you're approaching it with that retail mindset versus going in and just kind of saying, hey, we'll do it for whatever?
So my retail mindset, I go in, I do what they call as a 27-point inspection. So I have 27 points on that property roof wise that could, that I double check. And most of the time, we'll be outside, then I go to my attic space. So I'm double checking those things. That's what I do. It covers all the grounds. I've never had trouble with it. If I do that 27-point inspection, usually, say we go to tear off the roof, I'm already prepared for that. It's not, hey, we need more materials. I have to ask the homeowner for more money. If your roofer's not doing an attic inspection, they should not be your roofer. And in my opinion, they're not representing you well. How do they know if something's rotted? Are they going to even check your attic space? There's a lot of possibilities that go into it, and that. Are they going to tear your felt off? Or are they going to go back over it? You have rotten spots on your roof. There's a lot in the mix, but we do that 27-point inspection. It keeps us grounded, from the ground up, attic space, ventilation, check your rafters, make sure your rafters everything's up to code. Knowing your codes is huge as well. Drip edge, just anything and everything. But going in there retail minded is I just want to give them, I don't want to feel pushy. We use Company Cam for all of our pictures. It creates a link. So I get on there and I look at all those pictures with the homeowner. Each one has a brief description of the problematic area that we found in that picture. And giving people knowledge is basically, you can set your price. If you have the knowledge and you're willing to give it to the homeowner, not hold anything back, be very transparent, very upfront. I think that's how you be successful. I mean, I don't get greedy with what you're doing. I think greed will be the number one thing that'll ultimately make a company shut down, But really, it's just that 27-point inspection. That's where we stay with it. We stick with it. All my guys, my sales guy is one of my best friends. He jumped on, he learned that. He is about, I'd say 5 to 6 months into his roofing career, and he is killing it. He sold $300,000 in repairs 2 months ago, just in repairs. You know what I mean? No full re-roofs, nothing. So him learning that knowledge and being able to get that to the homeowner is the number one thing for me, going out there retail-wise. If the homeowner has questions or they have things that you did not answer after you leave, I feel like that can be very problematic for you trying to get that bid signed. Ultimately, I try to get everything signed on the spot. If you give somebody an hour to think, about another possibility or something else, that's a hard way to learn to get it signed on the spot. Not to let it take too long. You come in, you give all the knowledge, you give them everything. You have upgrades for them. You're beneficial to them at that point. And I think that's what really helps us close stuff.
Yep, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about it, because my process is very similar. Now I got to add a couple more points to my inspection because I don't have 27 of them, but I got a pretty solid line, and I do the same thing. It's systematic. You look at things, you explain to them, hey, this is something that I saw. You may want to consider this. I've been doing a lot of redecks lately because of the condition of the plywood, the condition of the decking, the code requirements and such. So being the only person that says something about that to a homeowner, you can say, yeah, I'm $6,000 more, but here is why. And here's the problems that could come from doing it the other way. And I think people are really looking for knowledge. They're looking to work with people that they know, understand what they're doing. I often joke and tell people, my customers, for the most part, you could go back an hour after I signed the deal and ask them what brand of materials we're using and this and that. And in most cases, they don't even really know, because I don't think homeowners focus so much on knowing CertainTeed and Owens Corning and GAF and Atlas and all that, but they're focusing on the person. And if you can go in, win them over with your personality, which that's about all I got going for me. So I go in and I do that and show them that you know what you're doing. I've been doing this for a long time now, so I've got that experience, and I say, hey, look, this is why I'm more. And I do turn down more work probably than I actually sign at this point. And I think that the key to that is just knowing when someone's going to be a good client for you and when someone is going to be problematic. And maybe I dismiss it too quick, but that's something I do. And I was going to ask you, it doesn't seem like this would be your mindset, but when you get going in this deal, you've got a good backup with Stonehouse. So you've got the ability to kind of piggyback off some of their clients, get some jobs, but you get out there and you get a few that are, you see some red flags. Have you ever had any situations where you've said, I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to anyway? And what kind of problems have that caused you emotionally, financially, just taken away from your overall quality of life?
So I'm pretty blessed with, my past. I've dealt with it. Here at Stonehouse, I made it very transparent with Carl from that lunch that we had. Hey, not every job is for us, and that's just the way this is. People are going to be problematic. I don't want to have to run a company where, say, I'm out there and I already know the homeowner's going to be having a hard time paying, or they're a stickler with money already, and they say, hey, I can give you this, but you got to wait on this, and things like that. Those are, in my eyes, and with my past and what I've recognized, I don't do work with those people. I don't want to be the company that has to put liens on your house to try to get money. I don't want to be the person who has to go to court to get your money. I don't want to deal with that. So if you're very transparent with me, yes, I'll do the job and we'll get that done. But as far as Stonehouse, I don't think I've had that issue yet. Yes, we have problematic things, something happens and we get it dealt with. But as far as turning down projects, I've actually turned down quite a few because I know how problematic those people could be or that situation could be, which ultimately, if we're found in the wrong and because we're so new, could potentially shut down Stonehouse. So that's something, as me running everything, I have to keep that in mind for every project that we go to, because our future is our future is in jeopardy based on what we do. So I don't mind turning down jobs. I don't mind telling people, hey, I'm not your roofer. And like you yourself, you're a roofer. So if I turn down that job, I will ultimately give it to you. Or, I have other buddies that are sales guys for roofing. I say, hey, this is the situation. I'm very transparent. This is what's going on. I'm not going to do it. But if you would like to do it, here's a lead. Take it. Go do your thing. And no backlash to me because I already told you that person was going to be problematic. But yeah, I don't mind turning down jobs because in the past I've seen it be cost the company a lot of money because people are just it just happens that way, and I don't want to have to micromanage homeowners to try to get money from them from something that they needed.
Yeah, you've got bigger things to do, bigger fish to fry, trying to build an entrepreneurial empire. And I agree. I think that's the biggest downfall for a lot of new companies is that they do have to go out there and work with people that don't care and are looking for their own best benefit only. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that red flag, green flag mentality. So they kind of look at it and say, well, I got to get as much as I can. Because I know some people, in our industry, there is an illusion that busy is successful. And I mean, here's you and I. It's 10:30 on Wednesday morning. We're sitting down doing a podcast. I'm not out knocking doors. I'm not doing all that. We've already signed a deal today. We've got some stuff going, got a couple follow-ups this afternoon. And it's really kind of a nice pace to just be able to say, look, I know I'm the best. I know I'm not the cheapest. I know that when I tell you I'm going to deliver, I'm going to deliver. And at the end, you're going to give me a 5-star review. But it's nice to not have to chase it. And I was telling a story yesterday. The only problem I've had in San Antonio, it's crazy, the cheapest roof that I've ever done in my entire career. This lady gave me so much trouble and probably still is to this day, and I just don't know it. But it was because I lowered my standard. I got down there and I said, well, I want to help this lady. Big mistake. I could see a bunch of red flags and I could see a bunch of things that could potentially go wrong. But in my mind, I thought that I could overcome them. Ultimately, she became a major headache for many years, and we didn't do anything wrong. It was a lady that was pissed off about stuff that wasn't even real. And, her air conditioner quit working 3 years after we did the roof. And somehow it was because of the roof. And if I don't pay this and that, and we're going to bash you online and we're going to go do this and we're going to tell everybody that you suck. And it's like, shouldn't have taken that job. And I told myself that when we came back, I'm not going to take those. And boy, I'll tell you, the quality of life has gotten much better from it. So much respect to that. And I think having that mindset going into it and saying, we're going to work with our ideal people and our ideal people only. They're going to provide us more opportunities to more ideal people because they all run in packs. Good customers run with good customers, and shit customers, guess what? They hang out with like kind and quality. So you deal with the good ones and you make it continue to work. And earlier on in this conversation, you said something that really kind of caught me, because I think this is the best way to build a roofing company as well. We're working on this ourselves. Property managers, multifamily complexes, apartments, things like that. Tell me a little bit about your mindset when it comes to that, how you go and develop some of these relationships, and some of the benefits to working with one person who is over a whole bunch of people. And they always say, sell to one that sells to many. And I think that's a great mindset. So how'd you get into that groove there with property management, and how has that affected the business positively and helped you expand quicker?
So we actually hired, we have a business development. Her name is Ashley. She works for the foundation side, but she's very good at cross promoting. Property management, I have a lot of family and friends out here that have contacts for that. So we reach out, we do a lot of functions. We'll take our tents, show up to functions somewhere, promote ourselves, get that out there. But as far as property management reaching out, Ashley has really been a blessing. So she'll reach out to property management. She'll set up a time where actually me, Carl, and Ashley will go out and basically do a whole introduction to Stonehouse and everything that we do. We kind of go in there, give them more knowledge of, say, it's property management or realtors. We give them more knowledge of what they should be looking for when they're walking those properties or things like that. Property management has been excellent for us. They on the commercial side of things. So we're trying to grow our commercial side. Property management has been great because we know Carl's actually in tune with a property manager, Brian Birdie, very well. And he has thousands of properties in out here in our areas. So getting in with him, property management people know other property management owners, So I think just referrals, getting in there, giving our knowledge, letting them know who Stonehouse is, and just that meet and greet has been great for us. It's easy to call somebody and kind of explain who you are and what you're doing, but then they're like, they just know your phone number. Getting in there, meeting with all of their reps, the property management, the top of the line, all the way down to the last guy that was hired. Sitting in there, giving them our knowledge, they can put a face to a name. They can kind of, if somebody asks them about something, they can back our quality with what we did in that introduction. Just getting personable with people. People, if you're personable with people, it goes a long way. If I call you 15 times on the phone and you never know who I actually am in person, I feel like there's a huge downfall to that. There's much more value showing up in person and letting people know who you are. So I think that's been huge for us, is setting up those lunches and not only getting to talk to them about business as we're doing those introductions, but being able to sit down with them at lunch and kind of just figure out who they are. And like I said, get personable, what their hobbies are. It's more than roofing. I don't want to come in. Yes, I'd love to do your roof one time and get paid and we're good. But my ultimate goal is for me to be your forever roofer. Anybody, referrals are huge. If we come in and we do a good job, people, like everywhere I go, they don't know me as Zachary Jenkins. They know me as Zachary Stonehouse Roofer. They don't know my last name. So just being personable with people and letting them know the quality of what you do, what you provide, backing everything that you say, no false promises. False promises will be the one downfall for a company. But yeah, I think the property management's been huge. Property management and realtors.
Yep, that was my bread and butter when I was in College Station. I loved it. I made a whole career out of helping one person that had, hundreds of houses over there, and it was a great situation. It's something I haven't been able to develop so much here, but we're working on that. And I think in the future, it's going to be a big part of my business as well. Here's the next phase of this process for you, Zach. you guys have got the company. You've been around about a year and a half. You're building a great reputation. You're putting together quality projects. You're working with the right people. You're getting referrals. And now all of a sudden you look around and it's like, dude, my schedule is pretty damn hectic. I got a lot going on. I'm running appointments all day. I'm out here, meeting people, shaking babies, kissing people, doing all that stuff. And how do I manage this to continue to grow the company? So now we look at the next phase and it's like, all right, I need some people that can come in and can help me, that can alleviate some of the stress, that can run some of my appointments, that can represent my company the same way that I want it to be represented. Tell me a little bit about this next step. I know you've hired, you said, a good friend that's been with you for a couple months, and that's awesome. There's now double the manpower that's out in the field. But if you're going to build this into I don't know what your plan is, a $3, $4, $5 million company or bigger, it's going to take a pretty substantial amount of teamwork. And in order to find those team members, you've got to go about it in a specific way. So tell me a little bit about how you are planning on growing the company, the types of people that you're looking for, and how you go about finding the people that are ideal fits for your business, because one bad hire can screw the entire thing up too.
Oh yeah. So then, we've actually had that. We've had a couple bad hires that we've had to let go. People just looking for handouts. They don't want to go to work. And me growing a company, I don't really have time to micromanage. I ask you, are you going to be door knocking and things like that? And you tell me yes, I expect you're going to be out there. The number one thing I think to build this is to find people who are honest and trustworthy. If you can look me in the eyes and tell me there's a problem going on, I respect that more than you making up a bunch of small white lies to make it sound better so you can figure it out. Obviously, running a company, that you're going to have problems. There's going to be things that you'll have to deal with. And I think just people being very transparent up front. Obviously hiring people with the knowledge is great, but I'd rather have somebody with no knowledge that is trustworthy, honest. Not so much that I can build, around the way that I run things, but, give them my ideas, give them my knowledge, give them all that, and let them run with it. As far as building business development has been huge. So kudos to Ashley for coming in and absolutely just killing everything she does. I mean, she is a go-getter 100% from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. She bleeds Stonehouse Foundations and Stonehouse Roofers. And that's what we need. And I think the main thing for me is, yes, as long as we continue to grow, I'll be happy. And then we'll get to that point of 5 million, 10 million, things like that. But I don't want to rush it and create a bad name for ourselves, because I've already been through a couple situations where people are going out, and they're just not respecting the company brand. They're not respecting homeowners. There's no soliciting signs, and these people are beating on their doors for 15 minutes, and I get calls, and I'm like, guys, it's common sense that, if they're outside and they're walking, go talk to them. Don't go beat on their door. Don't go. And yes, I've had some situations where there's been some no soliciting signs, and I have door knocked and I sold it, but it becomes more problematic than that one sale you're going to get. Truthfully, I just think honesty and integrity. I got to see that you're a go-getter. Obviously, staying busy on my side of things, making sure the company is the most profitable it can be, meeting with vendors, meeting with manufacturers, pretty much everything we can, so that when my guys go sell a job, the company is staying profitable. And there are things, so there's much more than just a homeowner we got to get to. On my side of things, I have a lot to take care of, but I got some pretty good people on my side, things like that. So we've stayed pretty profitable, running and gunning. Very blessed to say that we did $1 million our first year. And then we'll just grow. I don't want to grow rapidly. So, we'll take our time. We'll grow it right. We'll find the right people for those niches that we need. But ultimately, having my best friend Jacob on my side has been one of the biggest blessings. He's somebody I can call. He'll say, hey, I know you can't do it right now. I'll jump on it. I'll go do it. He'll go pick my son up from daycare because I'm working. I'll pick his son up, and it's just having each other's back like that, kind of more like a family atmosphere. That's what we're here for. That's what we ultimately want to build. When I sat down with Carl that day, and kind of discuss this. I have a young son. My best friend has a son. We want to pass this down to them if they want to be roofers. I want to keep the honesty in our trade, because we know there's a lot of people out there. They'll do a job and you'll never hear from them again when it's time for your warranty. So making sure that I can provide the best product, the best warranty, the best customer service, all that stuff goes into building the brand and getting us where we're going. It's not just I need to put a roof up and get a check. It's way more than that to us.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Boy, we are on the same exact page, and I've done the same thing. There was a time period where I was hiring people that probably didn't fit the fit that I wanted, just because I felt like I needed to have people. And a lot of times in our industry, the mindset is, hire in mass and then get rid of a bunch of people. But I found that that's kind of problematic for someone like me, because I'm hands-on. I like to take someone brand new that's never done roofing, teach them myself individually, not only how to sell and how to present roofs, but how to look for things on the roof system. I like to explain everything in detail. And I think the first guy I hired with Rio Blanco, I spent, 4 or 5 months just, hey, let's go to this appointment together. You watch me first, then, any questions you have, and then we're going to put you in there. Then you're going to get to the point where I'm sitting in the background and you're going to be able to run it. You're going to know exactly what to look for. What does a training platform look like for you when you bring someone on? Because you're similar to me. We came from sales into a different role, and sales is what I know. It's what I love. I've taught sales teams all over the country. I've got a lot of people that I mentor that reach out to me with questions about that. And I think that the way I do it is unique. I tell people, don't be like me, because I'm me. You be you. Let's focus on your strengths and find out what they are. How does that look like with you? You bring someone brand new onto your team that starts on Monday. What does a training look like for them before you feel like, okay, you're either going to make it or you're not? And now I'm at the point where I can actually tell whether you're going to be good or not. And then when you get to the point that you're willing to let people out into the world on their own to represent you.
So I think the first thing, obviously we have some inspections set up. I get out there. I'll have them knock on the door, the homeowner, go introduce yourself. Let's see how you are with people and customers and clients. Like I said, you have to be personable. You have to, I tell people all the time, my sales guys, when we hire them, I give my knowledge on the roof for about 5 minutes, and there's about another 55 minutes where I'm being personable with that person. I see that their son has a picture of, they have a picture of their son playing baseball. So I'll mention baseball, and it's getting those people to feel comfortable, not like you're just there for a sale. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. I see how they talk with the homeowners. Then we'll get on the roof. We'll do a full inspection. We use Job Nimbus as our platform right now. So I have that 27-point inspection, and they will go through it, step by step. I teach them insurance side of things, retail. This is what you're looking for. Basically, we'll go through that, and I think it was about 2 months. It was about a month of me stepping in, showing everything that I could. I wanted to touch every basis, from a tile roof to a commercial roof to a shingle roof. We'll get out there. Sometimes we do certain inspections for realtors. So just kind of giving them the inspection side of things. They need to know how to go out there, how to do an inspection, how to be able to explain all the problems that are going on to the homeowner. And then basically from there, it's after that, that next month I let them run. So I'll go with them, show up, and I let them run their inspections on their own. I just kind of sit back, let them do their thing. I'll double check it in Job Nimbus to ensure that everything was going right. I let them speak with the homeowner as I'm standing there. I'll jump in when I need to, things like that, and give some more information, or kind of redirect the conversation to where it was going if they got off. But most of the time, in my profession and with who I hired, which I have a guy selling down in George West, and I have my best friend here. Both of those guys, top-notch people. They can talk to anybody. They're personable. Just learning the roofing side of things, learning what to look for. Another huge thing was learning when to turn down jobs. The last thing I want to do is tell my sales guy, go sell this job, and that's all he thinks about. So turning down a job is huge as well. There's some jobs you just have to turn down. I don't ever want to have to go back to my sales guy and say, hey, your gross profit was supposed to be, your paycheck was supposed to be $3,000 on this, but we're 6,000 behind because of this client. You know what I mean? It's not going to work out. It's something that I don't want to have to do. So that in-depth training, 27-point inspection, basically learning job nimbus. So we sit down at the office for a very long time, learn the ins and outs of that, because if you're out there trying to sell something, and obviously I'm busy, say I'm doing this, I'm not looking at my phone. I need you to have all the answers and all the knowledge that customer is going to answer or ask, you have to have an answer for them, and it can't be something that you just bullshit or you make something up. A lot of these people already have some kind of knowledge before they ask you, whether they watched a YouTube video or whatever it is, they know. So the training process, I mean, it's been a little crazy here because we're still running and gunning like crazy. I do have a couple platforms that I have some buddies that own roofing companies in Dallas. So I kind of took a gist of what they do with their guys, and I ran it like that. But I guess it's just situational. Every situation that we go to, no roof is the same. There's different problems on every roof that you go to. So it's just really getting those sales guys out there and exposure to seeing what's going to happen in the field when they're by themselves. Other than that, we kind of guide them all the way through, and then they're good to go. They'll be out on their own. Jacob got out on his own, I think month 3. We started sending him on his own, and now he is fully, at 6 months, he's fully doing everything. Project managing, sending material orders, managing job nimbus, getting permits ordered, anything and everything. He could basically run the company, and that's the thing, other companies that I came from, when it came to the training process, there was always something held back. There was always something that somebody didn't want to teach me because they didn't want me to step on their shoes, I guess you could say. So I'm not that person. I never will be. I'll give you all my knowledge and you take what you want with it. I'll give you all the means to everything because I want you to ultimately provide for yourself as a sales guy. And that's about it.
I love it. That's the way to grow a company. You put responsibility in other folks' hands. They take it, they run with it. They have more pride, I think, in the situation, in themselves, in the company. And I've always told people, I want you to feel like you're one of the owners of this business. I want you to represent it like it were your own. And anything that I can do to make that, mindset in your head to where this is me, I'm part of it. I'm part of something awesome. It's not just a job. That's crucial. And with that, though, there comes the opportunities as you start to grow. You start to build a big, nice company with a great reputation. People either from our industry or from outside of it start to take notice, and they say, hey, you know what? I think I could do that. I'd like to come work with you. And you get someone that comes into your office and they tell you everything you want to hear because they're slick. They're salespeople. I've had this happen to me a few times. And you bring them on. They start off doing all right, following your rules, putting everything into the CRM, doing it the right way. But then they kind of veer off course. So my question for you, Zach, is let's say you bring someone in, they start off great, they start going downhill, and you can start to notice a little bit of a change with their attitude. They start acting maybe like divas, or they start, a tiny bit of success, and all of a sudden they're a badass. I've dealt with all this stuff. And what does it look like if you see someone that's becoming problematic, and how quick would you be to let somebody go, even if they were producing numbers at a high rate?
Numbers at a high rate means nothing to me. You're a good
You're
a good sales guy, but I can go sell it too. If I need to get back out there, I always will. My ultimate job is to sell the company as a whole for my sales guys so that they can go sell the homes. But if you're problematic and you can't, like I said, it's family oriented. Everybody's on the same page in this office. If you cannot be part of that, or you're problematic, or you think your process is your own way, be that sales guy that goes starts his company, but you can't be a part of ours. Yes, I'm always open to listening to other people's ideas and things that are going on. But if I see that in this industry, and it, you got to wake up and go to work. You got to wake up. We had guys that were turning down leads because it was too far for them. And I said, you live in San Antonio and this lead is in San Antonio. Oh, well, we don't go to that side of town. No, that's not happening. You know, if you're willing to pass up a house that somewhere down the line somebody worked hard for, and that's a lead for us, and you're willing to deny that, then I don't have any place for you here. Being micromanaged, you know, I'll come in and I'll let them know, hey, I'm noticing you're not doing very well, but we need to jump back on the train that we talked about from the first day. This is not your train, this is our train. And if everything's going to keep going down the tracks the way it needs to be, we all need to be on the same page. And I've seen it from being a sales guy in other companies. When other sales guys do it their way, it never does anything good for the company. There's always something that ends up problematic. The owner of that company is always at some point having to go back to that person for problem after problem after problem after problem. So really, when it comes to that, if you show me that you're not 100% in this, I don't have time for it. Ultimately, I don't micromanage. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but you know, I'll tell you, Stonehouse just probably isn't the place for you. If you have a hard time following rules and regulations that ultimately get you your paycheck, then you know this Stonehouse just isn't for you. And I don't have any problem letting people go. You know, ultimately, I can't let my heart get into it. Sometimes it sucks. You know, I get to know the family very well, or things like that. And yes, I do feel bad, but ultimately I have a company to run. That's what I promised myself and Carl that I was going to do. That's where I am. My family's at home. My family's in this office, and I will not let one person take away what the other 15 people have done up to this point.
Yes, sir. That's terrific. I love that mindset, because I think a lot of people do lead with their heart. And I think a lot of people have great intentions, and they will keep people on way beyond their benefit, way beyond the point of you know, returning back to what it needs to be. And it is good to be able to say, look, this just isn't the right opportunity. It's nothing personal. I just don't think that this is a good fit. And being able to, you know, wash your hands of the situation and say, hey, look, I've had people tell me, you know, you just let your top sales guy go. What the hell's wrong with you? And it's like, well, if that's the top sales guy, then that's the standard. And if that standard isn't good enough for me, then I don't want to do this, you know? So I would never sacrifice the mindset, the vibes. And I tell my guys on my team now, the standard keeps continuing to rise. Our bar gets higher every single time we bring someone on. And I'm not going to put someone in there that's going to muddy the water, that's going to make it worse, that's going to piss everybody off, because the good people are the ones that will finally say, you know what? I don't have to be good. This guy sucks, and you're keeping him around, and you're letting him get away with all kinds of bullshit. And, you know, number one, I either don't want to be here anymore because you've disappointed me with the lowering of your standards, or I don't need to be that good. I can just coast by and I can make it. And you're doing a disservice to your people if you have that mindset. And I know there are some people that are watching this that probably should listen to that a little bit more and take the advice from two guys that know what we're doing. So I got two quick things before we wrap this up. We're coming up on the hour, and I told you you're a busy man, a mover and a shaker. I'm not trying to keep you out here in the Keepin It Rio world all day, but as a young guy who's gone out and started a company from scratch, there are a lot of people in this industry that I know, several that I've worked with over the course of time. I've trained people. They go out, they start their own business. The roofing industry is great for that. You know, in Texas, there's a big debate right now about licensing and all that. I think there's still something beautiful about someone being able to go out and say, you know what? I'm going to start this. I'm going to live my dream. I'm going to go out and build my own company, and having a relatively low barrier of entry so you don't get discouraged. But this could be a damn discouraging situation as well. So let's go back in time and say you're getting ready to start a company, but you don't have Carl. You don't have any of that stuff. You're just going to go out because you've been a top salesman for XYZ Roofing, and you decided, hey, now's my shot. What's the biggest piece of advice you can give to somebody that's starting a roofing company on their own for the first time and is hoping to go out and make it big? Because we all know 90% of the companies fail. So to be in that 10%, what's one thing that you would focus on if you could go back and do it all over again? And obviously you've been blessed, like I have, to be able to have support and backing, and we don't have to live that life. But if you did, what would be the thing that would be your number one focus as far as how to continue it moving forward and grow successfully?
Truthfully, and the number thing, I would say, top three things that helped me grow is I actually went up, shout out to Randy, DT Roofing out there in Dallas, Texas, and Glen Rose.
Good dude.
Me, Carl, myself, he's an amazing dude. We actually went out there, sat down at a lunch with him. But before that, we went and saw how his office was operated. We saw, from the commercial side to the billing and watching and sitting, obviously he has a company that's recognizable. They're huge. They're doing what they need to be doing, and they'll be around hopefully for a long time. I know he markets himself well. Just learning kind of what they do, the day to day. You can be a sales guy and you can go out and you can sell 1 million roofs. You got your 100% closing rate, like everybody says they do. Come on.
Yeah, 1 for 1. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm like, man, you're good at this. But it's seeing how they operate, seeing what other steps, because in the sales point, you only know sales, and some of them you have a brief idea of what goes on behind the mix and everything else, and payment structures and with your manufacturers and vendors and what you can get back. But sitting down with a company that is reputable, that has been around, that has multiple structures to it so that you can also grow and know how to grow. I think sitting down with a reputable roofing company owner and somebody that knows what they're doing and has been through it, been through the trials and tribulations. You don't want to go sit down with, like me. I'm 1.5 years in. I wouldn't say I'm the person that you want to sit down with if you want to run a business, because I'm still learning. So sitting down with Randy and seeing his hardships and seeing what worked for him, seeing who his people were in-house. Every single one of them, Randy's like, we're in the middle of it. He's like, hey, I got this problem going on. Nobody was like, like didn't want to be in trouble. Everybody was very transparent. Everybody found, they found a solution together. They got it dealt with. And that's ultimately helped him build what he's $40 million a year company, sitting in my eyes, that talk with Randy and just seeing how he operates and seeing the types of things that work for him and helped him grow really helped us grow as well. We didn't really take the same steps or same platform as him, but there's a lot of little hints and tips and tricks that I saw that would work in our trade down in San Antonio that might not work in Dallas. It's open-minded, being open-minded, never stop learning. Just getting with somebody that knows the business really it would be my ultimate number one thing to do.
I agree. Mentor and coach, ladies and gentlemen. If you're in this, that's what you need, because you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of people think they know a lot when they really don't know squat. Right. And I like that. I said I had 2 more things, but I actually had 3. So I will go quick through this. The next question I have for you, which is going to start wrapping us up, second to last question of the day. 1.5 years in, you've developed something amazing. You've got a great reputation. I see you guys on social media. You're out there making it happen. You're helping people. You're growing a brand that's going to be your legacy that you're ultimately looking to leave to your family down the road. So let's talk a little bit about what your vision is for 5 years from now. Now, obviously, you're 1.5 years in, so it's hard to look that forward into the future. But in a perfect world, if everything goes according to the way that you saw it in your mind 1.5 years ago, what does Stonehouse look like in 5 years?
Stonehouse in 5 years, I'd like to have, all of our branches. I've been working somewhat with production. I don't know that that'll end up happening, but have a good commercial side where we have reoccurring clients that are monthly or quarterly. We can go out and do PMs for them, things like that, working with property management. Residential side, it is what it is. I'm hoping to be somewhere with between 1 to 3 million in the next 5 years. And then commercial side, hopefully, at about 5. Just building slowly. I've seen multiple people jump into it and try to grow too quickly. It never works out. Never works out good. It's in maintaining the relationships that we have. Every relationship that we have, property management, keeping those people happy. So that's where I see us just backing our word, growing. Ultimately, I hope that I can employ, multiple people that are able to spend time with their kids. That my number one goal for this is to be a profitable company. Yes, it's all about making money, but I could care less to be the $100 million a year company that's making a bunch of money. I'm perfectly fine with being the $3 to $5 million a year company that every one of my employees or the people that work for Stonehouse, not my employees, I don't even like to say that, they can go home with their family. I'm blessed. If I want to go pick my son up at 2:00 from school, I can pick him up and take him fishing and do all those things. So my ultimate goal is to have a very home feel to the company, obviously generating dollar amount, making good money, but just providing that to people, because I came from working 7 days a week, 12-hour days. And that's something that I never want people to have to deal with. Family is everything. You never know when that time is. So my ultimate goal is to have all the employees and everybody in-house making good money in the next 5 years, making good money, spending as much time with their family as they can, and just building this thing. Money will come, but you don't have that time.
Got me fired up over here, boss man. I love it. Last question I love to ask every single person that comes on this show. Let's say that somebody has watched this episode, and in spite of the fact that you and I are both in the same trade, in the same market, we're both, I think, the top 2 roofing contractors in San Antonio. Let's say someone's watching this and they say, you know what? I'm looking for an opportunity to maybe work for a reputable company. I'm looking at both of these guys. I'm looking at Zach and thinking, man, he's got a great mindset. I'm a homeowner. And again, people look at me like I'm crazy because we're both in the same market, but we're not competing with each other. We're here to help as many people as we can and do it the right way. A homeowner's watching this and they think, man, Chuck's cool. He's good looking. He's funny. He's amazing, but he's not the right fit for me. And I think maybe this guy, Zach, is. How does a homeowner, how does someone that's prospective to maybe come work for you, or someone who just wants to follow your journey, maybe another young roofing contractor, a young sales rep, what are some of the best ways that people can reach you, can reach your company, and can find ways to do business or interact with you?
I would say just reach out. I have my Facebook, Zachary at Stonehouse Roofers. There's our Facebook page. We get a lot of feedback from there. Personal number, you can get a hold of me, 979-422-2024. Or my email, Zachary at Stonehouse Roofers. Those would be the best 3 to get with me. Everything auto-populates to my phone or my computer. So, that's about it.
Well, we did have a minor technical difficulty right there. You're about to give your email and you froze. So if you want to give your email again one time real quick, we got you.
Zachary at StonehouseRoofers.com.
There you go. We probably could have figured that one out, ladies and gentlemen, but it's good to be positive. So, Zach, dude, I appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today. This has been so cool. I love getting perspectives from people all across the world in all different walks of life, but I have a soft spot in my heart for people that start roofing businesses, that go through the trials and tribulations and have the exact same mindset that I do. And I think you and I are a carbon copy. I'm just like 20 years older than you, and I've been through a little bit more of the rigors, but it's amazing to hear. I love it. I think we're going to touch some people. We're going to help some people with their mindset. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here with me today. So we'll do it again sometime in the not too distant future. Before I clock out, ladies and gentlemen, like I say every week, thank you for the support of Keepin It Rio, my sponsor, roofer.com. I appreciate everything you guys do for me. They've been my primary for 3 years, and I'm working on some new sponsorship deals, hopefully, that I can unveil in the not too distant future. But thank you to those guys. Thank you to everybody that helps grow this thing. It's not a roofing podcast. We didn't talk about hammers or nails or shingles or anything like that today. It's life, mindset, and just cool stories. So everybody that watches, thank you guys. Until next time, like I always end it, keep on keeping it Rio. And I'm going to play a very brief ad for my sponsor here to end the program. Zach, if you stick around for just a second, we'll finalize our conversation at the end. But until next Thursday, y'all, stay safe out there. We'll see you later.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payments in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started